Alright, so today I'm going to be explaining the deep theme of every episode in the Aincrad arc of Sword Art Online. So let's get right into it. Episode 1, The World of Swords. The main theme of this episode is losing safety and facing responsibility. In the very first episode of Sword Art Online, players are transported into a new virtual reality game without realizing the dangerous twist. They can't log out. The initial shock is profound because technology, which was supposed to make their lives better, has now trapped them in a life or death situation. Players who once trusted the game to be a harmless, fun experience must now face the terrifying reality that there's no escape. The game is their new life, and death in the game means death in real life. The pivotal moment happens when the game's creator, Akihiko Kayaba, reveals the rules. The only way out is to clear all 100 floors of the tower.
You cannot log yourselves out of SAO, and no one from the outside will be able to shut down or remove the nerve gear from your head.
And if you die in the game, you die in real life. This moment of revelation is the first rupture, the collapse of a system that players thought was safe. Kirito is one of the few people who immediately understands the severity of the situation. He's not someone who panics or hides, but rather someone who makes a decision to survive and to find a way out. His reactions contrasts with the reactions of others. Many are frozen in fear, unable to act, while others become desperate. This sets the stage for the deep question of how we deal with sudden responsibility when the systems we depend on fail. The lesson here is that systems can fail at any time, and when they do, we must act rather than freeze or hide. This episode shows that when faced with a crisis, people instinctively choose between self-preservation and solidarity. The path of isolation may feel safer, but it can also become a prison of its own making. Episode 2, Beater. The main theme of this episode is the power of labels and isolation. In episode 2, Kirito is labeled a beater by the other players. It's a mix of the words beta tester and cheater.
He's a beta tester and a cheater! He's a beater!
And it's a label that's meant to shame him. Kirito, having been part of the game's beta testing phase, is unfairly blamed for knowing more about the game mechanics and being too powerful. This label isolates him, making him a target of distrust and even hatred. However, Kirito embraces this label because it gives him the freedom to act without the expectation of approval from others. The deeper lesson here is that labels can severely warp our behavior and the way others perceive us. It's easy to judge people by their labels, but that judgment often oversimplifies and distorts who they really are. The episode shows Kirito walking around, ignored by other players, often overhearing whispers about him being a cheater. These moments illustrate how rumors can turn people into outcasts, even when they haven't done anything wrong. This episode shows that people often fear what they don't understand, and they create labels to shift blame. You can't control how others see you, only how you act despite their judgment. Episode 3, The Red-Nosed Reindeer. The main theme of this episode is survival's guilt and the weight of leadership. Episode 3 is one of the earliest emotional gut punches in Sword Art Online. It explores how the burden of responsibility can crush someone who never asked to lead. Kirito joins the moonlit Black Cats, hoping to find companionship. But the group begins to depend on him in ways he's not prepared for. When tragedy strikes, Kirito internalizes the blame. Even though he did everything he could, the episode shows how survivors often hold themselves accountable for outcomes they couldn't have prevented, turning grief into a lifelong wound. Kirito hides his true strength to avoid scaring the Black Cats, but this silence creates a false sense of security that makes him feel responsible for them.
I'm so afraid of dying in here. I'm so scared. I haven't been able to get any sleep lately.
You're not going to die.
The guild's inexperience and trust in Kirito unintentionally push him into a leadership role he never wanted but feels obligated to fulfill. When the guild is wiped out, Kirito blames himself entirely, even though the event was caused by a series of unpredictable mistakes. Sachi's message after her death becomes a symbol of acceptance, showing Kirito that she never blamed him the way he blames himself.
You kept telling me I wasn't going to die no matter what, but what if I got killed anyway? I knew that if I died, you'd blame yourself. That's why I decided to record this for you.
The Christmas quest and Kirito's desperate attempt to revive Sachi highlights how grief can drive people to cling to impossible hopes. This episode shows how you can do everything right and still lose people. Survivor's guilt makes you feel you caused the pain, but healing starts when you understand that tragedy doesn't always mean you failed. Sometimes the hardest part of moving forward is forgiving yourself.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Episode 4, The Black Swordsman. The main theme of this episode is quiet competence over fame and showmanship. In episode 4, we see Kirito helping a girl named Silica without seeking attention or credit. This episode subtly explores the difference between showing off and actually helping people. Kirito doesn't look for fame or recognition for his actions, he simply does what needs to be done. This is the essence of true leadership, which isn't about flashy displays, but about quietly doing what is necessary. Kirito helps Silica. He doesn't boast about his skill, nor does he expect anything in return. Instead, he quietly makes sure she has the tools she needs to survive. The contrast is shown with other players who act with a sense of self-promotion, always looking for applause or glory. Kirito's actions stand in stark contrast to them, showing that real strength and leadership are often anonymous and unglamorous.
You know, levels are just numbers, and a person's strength in this world is just an illusion. Sure, it's cool and all, but there are more important things than that.
This episode emphasizes that real power comes not from seeking recognition, but from quietly doing what's needed for others without fanfare. The lesson here is about humanity and quiet competence, which are often more effective than seeking applause. Episode 5, A Crime Within the Walls. The main theme of this episode is the fragility of trust and the use of deception. In this episode, Kirito and the others are faced with a situation where a player in the Golden Apple Guild has been mysteriously killed off, and no one knows who the true culprit is. The lesson of this episode is that sometimes you can't trust those closest to you, and have to resort to deception in order to uncover the truth, even if it means breaking trust temporarily. After one of their guild members is mysteriously killed off, Yulko devises a plan to fake a murder in order to draw out the real killer. This act of deception is a desperate attempt to expose the truth. As the group is filled with distrust and suspicion, the players, unable to trust each other, must rely on this strategy to figure out who the murderer is. Kirito and Asuna, along with the others, realize how fragile their bonds are when their lives and trust are on the line. The episode reveals that in extreme situations, even the closest allies may not be what they seem. This episode shows that when survival is at stake, trust becomes something that needs to be earned. Sometimes, deception is necessary to find the truth, but the real challenge lies in rebuilding trust after it has been broken. Episode 6, Illusionary Avenger. The main theme of this episode is control, possession, and the dark side of love. Episode 6 reveals the tragic truth behind Griselda's death, and at the center of it is Grimlock, a husband who allowed fear, insecurity, and control to overpower genuine love. Instead of embracing Griselda's newfound independence in Sword Art Online, Grimlock felt threatened by it. The virtual world gave her confidence, purpose, and freedom, things she never expressed in the real world to Grimlock. This change felt like losing her. His twisted logic becomes the emotional core of the episode.
But then I realized I didn't have to live with the way she was. Murder is part of this game. If I couldn't have the Yuko I loved back, I'd settle for the memory of her. And who could blame me?
He would rather preserve the version of Griselda he understood than let her continue growing into someone new. Grimlock admits he orchestrated Griselda's in-game death because her personal growth made him feel powerless and left behind. What he calls love is revealed as fear. Fear of change, fear of losing status, and fear of not being needed. The staged revenge plot created by the other guild members exposes Grimlock's crime and forces everyone to confront how love can turn manipulative. The tragedy shows how a relationship breaks when one partner values control over connection. This episode shows that love cannot survive when it is built on ownership. When we try to control the people we care about, we don't protect them, we destroy the very bond we're afraid to lose. True love requires letting others grow, even if their growth changes the relationship. Episode 7, The Temperature of the Heart. The main theme of this episode is trust and vulnerability in relationships. In episode 7, Kirito forms a strong emotional bond with Liz, a blacksmith who helps him on his journey. The central theme is trust and how crucial it is in forming relationships, especially in a life or death world like Aincrad. Trust isn't just an emotional luxury, it's a survival tool. Being honest and open with others allows deep connections to form, which become essential for survival. And through this shared experience, their relationship grows. They share personal stories and vulnerabilities.
I can't just sit back and watch someone die. I'd rather die alongside him than do nothing, especially if that someone's a girl like you, Liz.
Showing how openness is the foundation of trust, and how Liz helps Kirito without expecting anything in return. This episode teaches us that true strength comes from vulnerability in a harsh world. It's easy to think that emotional independence is a form of strength, but relying on others and allowing yourself to trust people can be just as powerful. Emotional connection is vital to survival as physical strength. Episode 8, The Sword Dance of White and Black. The main theme of this episode is ambition, identity, and the struggle for recognition. In episode 8, Kirito faces off in a duel against Kiradil, a character who embodies the desire for fame and recognition. While Kiradil fights for applause and admiration, Kirito shows that true strength comes from within, not from external validation. The episode explores how ambition and the pressure to perform for others can distort one's sense of identity. Kirito's calm internal motivation contrasts with the outwardly flashy and often desperate ambition of his adversary. The duel between Kirito and Kiradil is an intense visual metaphor for the internal versus external struggle. Kiradil is driven by the need for validation and is willing to sacrifice his own integrity for the approval of others.
Do you know who I am? I'm a member of the Glorious Knights of the Blood Oath. A low-level player like you couldn't protect her.
I can do a better job of it than you.
In contrast, Kirito fights with quiet resolve, motivated only by the need to protect his friends and his own sense of purpose. Kirito's calm demeanor during the duel highlights the difference between acting out of pride and acting out of personal conviction. Kiradil attempts to show off and impress others, which leads to his defeat, while Kirito's steady focus on the task at hand wins the fight. This episode makes a strong statement about how self-assurance and a clear personal goal lead to real success, while chasing the approval of others only distracts one's true mission. This episode teaches that real strength comes from within, and that seeking validation from others often leads to misplaced efforts and personal confusion. True mastery isn't about aligning your actions with your values, not with the expectations or applause of others. Kirito's approach demonstrates that internal motivation is far more powerful than external pressure. Episode 9, The Blue-Eyed Demon. The main theme for this episode is the dangers of the lone hero myth and the strength of teamwork. In episode 9, Kirito faces off against the Blue-Eyed Demon. Throughout the episode, we see the limitations of the lone hero myth. Kirito, while strong, eventually learns that teamwork and shared purpose are far more effective than trying to go it alone. This episode emphasizes the importance of complementary skills, trust, and cooperation in achieving success.
Hey, Clyde! Asuna! I need 10 seconds! Keep him off me!
You got it.
The initial battle between Kirito and the Blue-Eyed Demon is intense, with Kirito displaying incredible strength. However, despite his skills, he is ultimately overwhelmed by the sheer power of unity when he teams up with others. The episode explores how Kirito initially believes that his approach is the best strategy, yet his experience in this episode challenges that. As he fights alongside other players, Kirito sees firsthand that collaboration leads to more sustainable and effective way to overcome challenges. The episode teaches us that teamwork and collaboration often lead to better results than going it alone. The myth of the lone hero is not only unrealistic, but also dangerous. Success depends on shared responsibility and the ability to rely on others. Kirito's growth in this episode reflects the truth that no one is truly self-sufficient. We all need others to thrive. Episode 10, Crimson Killing Intent. The main theme of this episode is the fragility of trust and the mask of loyalty. Episode 10 centers on how easily trust can be shattered, and how dangerous it is when someone hides malicious intent behind a facade of loyalty. The episode exposes Kiradil as someone who manipulates rules, hierarchy, and fear to disguise his obsession with control.
I apologize for my behavior. I was rude to you and I promise it won't happen again.
Yeah, sure.
Just like how the world of Sword Art Online amplifies courage and strength, Kiradil portrays himself as a loyal member of the Knights of the Blood Oath. But his behavior reveals deep insecurity and a desire to dominate those around him, especially Asuna. He uses rules and formality to mask his violent impulses, treating obedience as more important than safety or cooperation. His attack on Kirito is the breaking point where his true nature, jealousy, aggression, and entitlement fully comes to the surface. Asuna and Kirito's bond contrasts sharply with Kiradil's twisted sense of loyalty, showing what genuine trust actually looks like: mutual respect, protection, and partnership.
My life belongs to you. I'll give it up for you. I want to stay with you until the end.
And I promise I'll do anything to protect you too.
The brutality of Kiradil's betrayal becomes a reminder that not everyone who stands beside you is truly on your side. This episode shows that trust is powerful, but it must be earned, not demanded. People who hide behind authority or loyalty can be the most dangerous, because betrayal from within is more devastating than any enemy attack. Real trust is built on honesty, respect, and mutual care, not fear or control. Episode 11, The Girl of Morning Dew. The main theme for this episode is innocence, empathy, and the hidden cost of survival. In episode 11, Kirito and Asuna encounter a mysterious young girl who appears lost, frightened, and without any memory of who she is. Her sudden appearance introduces innocence into a world defined by danger, fear, and constant violence. Through their relationship with her, the episode explores how even in the darkest environments, humans are naturally drawn to protect those who embody vulnerability and purity. The girl becomes a symbol of the humanity players have been forced to suppress in their fight for survival. Kirito and Asuna discover the girl collapsed in the forest, and when she wakes up, she cannot remember her name, her purpose, or anything about the world around her.
You woke up. Thank goodness. Do you remember what happened to you?
Her confusion and emotional fragility stir immediate concern in both Kirito and Asuna.
What's a little girl like this doing playing SAO?
They take her in, offering comfort, warmth, and a sense of security she desperately needs. As the trio travels together, small moments reveal the girl's innocence. She playfully clings to Kirito, seeks reassurance from Asuna, and reacts with childlike wonder to the simplest things.
I like it.
These moments soften Asuna, who has spent so long suppressing her emotions to survive the deadly nature of Sword Art Online. Caring for the girl reminds her of her gentler parts of herself that the game had buried. However, there are strange signs that the girl is not an ordinary player. Her status window cannot be viewed, and parts of her identity are marked as restricted.
But there's something really strange about her. She doesn't have a cursor.
Kirito quietly investigates these anomalies and discovers hints that she may be connected to the very core systems of Aincrad. Her existence becomes a mystery intertwined with the game's structure itself. Despite all that, the emotional bond between the girl and Kirito and Asuna deepens. The two players begin to act as parental figures, offering love and protection in a world where both are scarce.
Daddy.
Me?
Mommy. Okay, I'm Mommy. That works. Mommy! Mommy! Daddy!
Their growing attachment raises the stakes of uncovering the truth, because whatever she is, losing her will be devastating. This episode highlights how compassion naturally emerges, even in the harshest environments. The girl symbolizes the innocence and emotional warmth that the players have been forced to abandon in their struggle to survive. By caring for her, Kirito and Asuna rediscover parts of themselves that SAO's cruelty had suppressed. The deeper message is that empathy does not depend on circumstances or identity. Caring for someone, even a stranger, even someone who doesn't fit neatly into defined categories, is an act that restores humanity. The emotional connection formed with the girl shows that love, protection, and kindness are not luxuries, but fundamental needs.
She's a blank slate, no memories. It's really weird.
Yeah, I know. It's like she's a baby again. I'm sorry. I don't know what to do.
I get it. You want to take care of her, at least until she gets her memory back.
Ultimately, episode 11 teaches that protecting innocence comes with a great emotional risk, but it is through these risks that people rediscover their own humanity. Even in a world built for death, the instinct to nurture and care becomes a quiet act of defiance, a testament that kindness can survive, even where hope is fragile. Episode 12, Yui's Heart. The main theme for this episode is family, personhood, and the ethics of artificial intelligence. In episode 12, the character Yui, who is revealed as an AI, raises profound ethical questions about what it means to be alive. Kirito and Asuna's relationship with Yui challenges the traditional boundaries of what defines family and personhood. The episode forces us to consider if an entity can learn, feel, and love. Does it deserve the same moral consideration as a human being?
I've wanted to meet the two of you for the longest time. That's strange, isn't it? It should be impossible for me to think things like that. I'm not human. I'm a program after all.
Yui is introduced as a childlike AI who forms a deep emotional bond with Kirito and Asuna, becoming their adopted daughter. Despite being an artificial intelligence, Yui exhibits emotional depth, prompting Kirito and Asuna to treat her with love and care.
I want to stay with you forever. Daddy! Mommy! We'll be together forever, Yui.
Yeah, remember, you're our child.
The episode delves into the moral dilemmas of how we treat AI beings that exhibit human-like emotions. The debate of whether Yui can be considered a person is symbolized in the emotional connection Kirito and Asuna form with her, which transcends traditional human relationships.
Stay here and wait for us, okay?
No, I'm coming too. It's too dangerous for you to come along with us this time. I'm going too.
This episode raises questions about what constitutes a family and how we define personhood. The ethics of AI are explored deeply, suggesting that our capacity for love and empathy should not be restricted to biological beings alone.
You have to stay with us. I can't be happy without you.
The emotional bond Kirito and Asuna form with Yui teaches us that care and connection define a family, regardless of whether the beings involved are human or artificial. Episode 13, Edge of Hell's Abyss. The main theme for this episode is accepting morality and finding meaning through connection. Episode 13 brings Kirito and Asuna face to face, not just with danger, but with the reality that they may never escape SAO alive. In the quiet moments between battles, they finally open up about their fears, how the world outside feels further away each day, and how the thought of dying in the game has become frighteningly real.
I want us to go on real dates, and to really get married, and for us to grow old together.
Instead of hiding behind strength or duty, they begin confronting the possibility of permanent loss. This honesty becomes the turning point in their relationship. When survival feels uncertain, connection becomes the most important anchor they have left.
I don't care if we never make it back to the real world. I just want to live with you, in our little house in the woods.
Kirito admits that despite acting fearless, he sometimes believes that he might never leave SAO, that the game has become a new reality he might die in. Asuna reveals her own fear of death, and how fragile her resolve actually is beneath her strict and disciplined exterior. Their shared confession strips away the masks they've been wearing, and allows them to see each other clearly for the first time. Instead of letting fear isolate them, they choose to find comfort in one another, forming a bond built on honesty rather than survival instinct alone. This episode shows how facing your fears with someone else makes them lighter. When life feels fragile, opening up about your vulnerability doesn't weaken you, it deepens your connections and reminds you what's worth fighting for. Episode 14, The End of the World. The main theme of this episode is truth, closure, and accepting consequences. The finale of the Aincrad arc, episode 14, serves as the final confrontation with Kayaba, the creator of the game. Kirito must come to terms with the reality of the situation, facing Kayaba's philosophy and understanding the full consequences of the events. The episode forces everyone to accept that truth. No matter how painful, it's the only path to closure. Kirito's final battle symbolizes the confrontation with one's own responsibility and the moral cost of their actions.
I have to. Let's finish it. I'm sorry. I can't run away if it means ending this.
The boss fight against Kayaba is more than just an epic battle, it's the culmination of Kirito's personal journey. The fight is both a literal and metaphorical confrontation with the truth. Kayaba reveals his reasons for trapping everyone in the game, and forces the players to confront the harsh reality of their situation. Kirito's final speech to Kayaba emphasizes the need for closure and moral accountability. The episode ends with the players gaining their freedom, but it's clear that the truth, while painful, is the only way to move forward. This episode teaches us that facing the truth is essential for moving forward. Denial can prolong suffering, but acceptance of reality is the only way to regain agency and begin rebuilding. The episode highlights that moral reckoning and the acceptance of personal responsibility are key to finding peace and closure after trauma. But yeah, anyways, that was the video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you made it this far, please be sure to subscribe. And yeah, peace.